Well, hello there. It's my Saturday morning, which means it's time for entering theater. This is going to be aimed mostly for those that are in that space of serving our country or a country and have returned home and are dealing with the rehumanizing, I think is a good word, from a warrior. Now, the first one of this is going to be my story. Uh, so still me, still joyful, but yeah, it's time, yeah, it's time to understand some things. This is Saturday. This is leaving theater. Now, as the wisdom for this piece, I would think that we all understand that I've been there, had a bullet fly over our head or a bullet fly into our body. Either of those are fun, but they do happen. And we do have this understanding that we've also taken a life. That's something we just have to live with. But at some point, we have to leave theater, the place where we were, where all of the nasty things happened that were necessary in some way to keep all of the nice people, well, nice. I know it's a little rough, but then this space is rough, isn't it? So what can we do with that? Well, we can find the warrior's road home, the stories that bring us to a place where we, in a sense, shatter in a beautiful way and are allowed to come to a place where we can become again that we were before we were trained and took service. Now, mine comes without proof so far. May get a lot of proof. Who knows? May happen. Doesn't matter. You look in these eyes, you see what you see sometimes when you look in the mirror. We'll leave it there for now. I don't know if that's wisdom or just understanding that the Warriors Road Home is the thing that we require to do. We require to leave theater. We'll leave it there. If you wish to reach out to me, especially on this topic for this day, well, just reach out to Eric at starthealing.me, Eric at starthealing.me, Eric at starthealing.me, and I'll send you a link. You can book a time and you and I will get to talk. Maybe I can help you some. Maybe I'm part of your healing puzzle. Maybe I'm part of that road home. But for now, reach out. Let's see if we can help together to get you to a place where you feel more at home. So, my story, huh? Well, my story is not the typical, you know, oh, I wanted to sign up, so I did, and then I went to war and bad things happened. No, mine was a mistake, an error. I've told this story so many times it feels like surreal to me. Yeah, it's real to me. Yeah. My mom had a severe temper. That's how it all started. She shattered a desk. Well, she, mom, desk, yes. She was a logger. I mean, the type of logger that skidded, skinned, and moved logs just like a man would. 5'9". By the time that I would be in her life, she would be a pretty shattered person, both in personality and in body, which still strong enough to hit you and knock you across next week, if you get my point. So she had a temper. And I had said something she didn't like, so she hit the desk and shattered it, broke it in half. Still had a lot of her logger's strength. Well, that didn't go well because she lost her disability for the umpteenth time because of that temper. And I was just coming into my 18th year. I'd been thrown out 2 years before that, literally, smashed up against a wall. That was my way that I left my mother's apartment. But I still required to help her. At least I believe so. I did have a relationship with God at the time, but it was a revolving door one. I was fighting through a lot of trauma and things that are even hard to explain, that they were there. And so I got this grand idea that I would take these little brown bags from China down to wherever they needed to go on my bike. Now, you gotta understand, I was not healthy 100%. I had what people might call narrow deficits. I mean, they came, they gone, they went, they came back. And, I was flat-footed, so I would have never got into the military. At least that's what I believed at that time. All of those things didn't seem to matter when all things came down to it. But anyway, let's not belabor this. I was basically running one of those bags from one side of Toronto to the other with the wonderful blue lights behind me and went to jump the tracks as I had done many times when it worked. And of course, this time my neuro deficits decided now we're not doing this to, and we crashed. I got picked up by a very big, burly guy, sergeant, apparently. We ended up having a conversation. He showed me a picture of a very nice, very large, very big black fellow. You can't call him anything else, so people have issues with that. I apologize. People of color, I guess you call them now. I'm showing my military strength here. Uh, Nonetheless, his name was Ruby, and I would spend the next 5 years with him. And he was not suited to females. He liked males, so that would have been an interesting run. Or I could sign this little paper and become a human shield. I had a life expectancy of 0 after training, which wouldn't be that much, but it was better than Ruby, so I took it. I had a girlfriend at the time, well, something like that. Two broken people trying to shatter each other most of the time. Sometimes we actually got to the point of love. When she was in my life, I had been really miffed off. I was miffed off at God that he didn't allow me to jump tracks. Weird, right? But true. That's where it was. So I had bought a bottle of Jack and I had drank and I had passed out. And I'd set 5 alarms so I made it the bus that was taking me to wherever it was going. I didn't know. I just knew I had to be at this point in Toronto with nothing. That's what they told me to bring. 0. I kind of didn't listen to them. I brought a very small bag that had my Bible and a couple of other things that I didn't want to be without. They were all right with that. But when I arrived there, my my wonderful lady of the night that had been with me for my last night of freedom, as she said, you're going to jail just in a different way. She said, I've been around all kinds of you like this. And anyway, I passed out from the jack, which makes me a total narce. But anyway, I uh, I woke up to the sound of bells. I didn't know why. A wonderful lady had braided my hair with little Santa bells in them. Yeah, I went out and got on a military bus with jingles. Um, I was, I had taken 4 aspirin. I really didn't care if I passed out, didn't wake up. I felt like life was over. That's where I was. And, you know, so I passed out, and a few hours later, I don't know, days, weeks, I don't have a clue. And I didn't look at time at that point. I didn't even look at the date I started training, but eventually we ended up somewhere. Some may say it was Paris Island. It was some training center. It was not in Canada, I don't believe. Doesn't matter. We were just basically being taught basic stuff. Well, with my upbringing and the way my mom was, there was something a little special about me. Wasn't that much special, but it was a little bit. I understood weapons fairly well. I could clean them, take them apart, put them back together when I wished. There was not always that time that I wanted to. But, you know, my life in training was terrible because I arrived with jingle bells. So, yeah, that was, zipped off, and I get very weak when I don't have hair. It's just something that's happened all my life. I don't know exactly why, but there's been tests and stuff. And anyway, I stumbled around for a while. Eventually, some hair grew back, and I felt a little better. Went through training. At one point, they were having me shoot at things because I said I could shoot, and I couldn't hit the broadside. And then I told them it was too close. And they went, "What? That's 300 yards out there." I said, "It's too close." I said, "Chicken coop was 450." Or at least I had to make sure that the chicken hawks didn't get past 450. So I picked another target. I could have picked anything. It would have been better to pick anything than that. But I see a Pepsi can sitting on a Jeep. Can I shoot that? And they go, "Yeah, sure." So I shot it. The general was behind it. I don't know why a general was wandering around on our base, but he was, and he was taking a dump. I don't know why he was doing that behind the Jeep. Guess old things die hard. I don't know. He was not happy. Messed up his clothes, scared him, and he made my life interesting for the rest of training, which I went through a lot of different trainings. I won't talk about those. Eventually, I got to a place where I did my duty and finished, and uh, they nearly took my life, and I ended up coming back to Toronto and being a pain in the arse, and they eventually left me alone under supervision. But I couldn't sleep in my apartment. Well, not my apartment. I didn't have such a thing. I had a room, and I was scaring the heck out of the other roomers with my night terrors and my screaming and all that. So I would go and sleep at the church. And there was an old priest, and he did the evening homily. And then he walked over to me and he goes, "You look like you require a drink." I said, "That's what got me into all this problem." Well, maybe slightly. I said, "Okay, can't turn down a rum." And I needed something to calm my nerves. That's what I was thinking. Then I could come back to the church and maybe have a couple hours sleep and go and do whatever I could do to make capital to pay for a room that I would get kicked out of later. But that was life. And we sat in his parsonage and he drank, I drank, and he told stories. Stories of the knights and glory of the Templars and of battles that he had seen. He had been a padre in the First World War, and he really told some pretty gut-wrenching, tied-up stories. And by the time we were finished with a little bit of the rum, I felt home. I felt that I had come home. I would still have night terrors periodically. My life didn't shift as much as what people would love to hear, but I was home. I was not walking every night inside jungles and rice paddies and other things and climbing through trees to make shots that were impossible but got made because I know that I didn't know wind direction. No, didn't know that. I didn't know anything about the arc of a bullet. No. The only thing I knew is that the bullet had to hit the target. Intuitive shooting, they called it. It worked. I called it terrified to miss. With a mother that was telling me that how much each shell cost if I missed. When I missed, it wasn't nice. So I didn't miss. But I felt ragged and raw after that. But I felt home. I didn't have the nightmares of shutting my eyes and being back there anymore. Now, that's what leaving theater is about. That's what's going to happen here. This is my story, of course, nutshelled so that it fits in a roughly 15, 20-minute window, we hope. But this is what you're going to hear every Saturday that I can sit here and feel confident that I can deliver something to you. Is a story. Could be from the Knights Templars. It could be from the time of the Roman legions. It could be from World War II, World War One, the Boer War. It'll be a war story. Yes, it will. And it will help you leave theater. Let's leave that there. Let's have a blessing of joy and peace, and the conclusion of the storm inside, and a conclusion of the reliving what no human should live through. Yet we did. And we just asked for whatever God's brush wishes to paint for you. And again, we wish for peace. And according to God's will and wish, according to your will and wish, this can be. We come before you, Father, and we all have moments in our history where things that are done that are regrettable. And some people try to make it better by saying it's for king and country, and it is, in a sense. We don't have kings, but we have leaders who send us into war. And we do things there that we wouldn't do as civilized beings. They don't teach us how to come home, really. They try to help us reintegrate, they call it. But that doesn't help most of the time. So what we ask for is that you sanctify this space. You help this vessel, this donkey, as you're the power and the glory behind this, to help them leave theater, to walk away from the life of the warrior and come home so that they can be with their family and their friends as what they were before they left. Of course, with that wisdom and understanding that comes from that space and the lessons learned. Yeah, give them peace. Let them laugh again. And let them feel safe. And let them feel you. And let them feel safe around those they are with. We ask you to push back the darkness. If this is the first or the 100th time, first time, teach them the Roman road. If it's the 100th time, take them deeper, Father. We thank you for doing these things. We thank you for helping, as you always do, in all the ways you do, though. So, I ask for grace and courage and mercy and strength as we go. And I say thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude. Standing in awe and honor, respect, allowing all glory to flow in Father, Spirit, Son. This is, and so this is. So you be blessed, and when you rest, rest well, wake well, and know that your path is well lit by God. Blessings.